Hey everybody, it's Alex Youngblood. I got Brian Haskins here with me, and we are getting ready here to go over another um, strategy session, if you will, about what to do with your sellers when they are coming into your system. This is basically, we're going to be talking about lead processing here. But before we get into that, man, how are you doing, Brian?
I'm doing great. How's it going for you?
Good, good. I'm really excited. I've got a new lead manager that I'm working with, getting him going through the processes of hammering through these seller leads and talking to them and trying to find some hidden gold hiding in the database. That's right
a
there.
lead manager is, it's kind of not necessarily a new concept, but it's probably something that a lot of people don't know about. You want to kind of explain what that is a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, it's funny. This business has kind of gone through a couple different phases, right? So like when you and I started out, we were doing everything, weren't we? You marketed, you got calls coming in, and then you examined all the leads yourself, and then you went on the appointment yourself, and then you took the pictures of the property yourself, and then you did all this kind of stuff, and you just did absolutely everything. And now the business has kind of shifted a little bit to where now you're employing key players in a team format to in order to process the leads and get things under contract and move the contracts and all that kind of thing. I mean, do you remember, like, what was your business like early on when you first started in this?
Yeah, I would say probably for the first year or year and a half, I pretty much did everything, and then slowly started to incorporate virtual assistants. But even the virtual assistants didn't really do a lot of the lead processing and stuff like that. That all came quite a bit later, for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, it switched from us doing everything and now into getting better people in place to handle these type of things, right? And I've kind of thought to myself, why did that happen? I used to be able to do everything. I used to be able to call a seller back. I used to be able to negotiate. I used to be able to go out on the appointment, get the contract, go and do all that stuff, right? And it's really interesting how that's come into play. But what I say, the first thing that people need to do is get a lead manager. That's like your first hire outside of just a random virtual assistant that you have in the Philippines or something along those lines. A lead manager can really explode your business, right? And whether you have a lead manager doing this or whether you are doing it yourself, we're talking about what you have to get together before you call a motivated seller back, right? Because the way the business works is we generate leads. We generate calls, right? And this can be done through marketing. This can be done through cold calling. This can be done through driving for dollars, whatever it is. But what you need to do is gather a little bit of reconnaissance before you go and start talking to a motivated seller or a potential seller, because you want to kind of have a general idea of where you're coming from, or so you don't sound like a complete idiot, or you have a little bit of a credibility when you call people back. So we're going to be talking about some of those things here, as we jump into this. So good to see somebody from Houston checking in. Who is that said that, Brian?
Dante,
good to see you. Good to see you, Houston. Houston representing in the house. Who else do we have on the call? Go ahead, say hi. Let us know what market you're in, and we're going to talk about some good stuff here on what you need to do before you get into calling a seller back. I will wait a little bit for that to come on through. But first, the first thing you need to do as you are getting your leads that are coming into the system is you need to get an idea of a property detail report, right? This can be done through a couple different ways. The most ideal way is to work with something like the MLS, or to work with something basically called Realist, which is in my area. And this is a property detail report that will lay out the lot size of the property, the ownership of the property, the sale date of the property, and even some of the loan data and things like that. So you can't get that. You can't get all that information unless you have like an MLS in your area, and that's fine. The next best thing you can get is just like finding what your government property site information is. Like, so for us, for every county, we've got a different public site that you can go and get a lot of good information from. So it'll give you, for instance, the lot size of the property. It'll give you the last sale of the property, and sometimes even comps. I mean, is that what you've got in your area? Or do you guys go off MLS, or what do you use?
Yeah, so I like to use the MLS. The problem with the information in our area through the county website and stuff, the numbers when it comes to evaluations and stuff like that are way off. I know it's a lot more common in other areas that it's pretty accurate, or you can at least kind of find some kind of formula that you can use. But for us, the numbers are way off.
You mean, now when you say numbers, what do you mean by numbers?
So whenever they evaluate on the county website, so if they say, all right, well, this house is valued at this amount, like we can't go off of those numbers. Usually it's way low.
So they're doing house evaluation then.
Yeah.
What about
so
sale information?
Yeah, I can't think of the exact word I'm going with, but like they kind of have that appraisal on there where there's like a lot value and then like a house value. Some people, like I know you said in your area, it's pretty accurate to what houses actually sell for. But
yeah, so that would be like the tax assessment, right?
Right. There you go. That was where
the tax assessment, like I said, is fairly close, right? But what about like sale information? Do they have this last time the property was sold?
Yes.
Okay, and that's accurate usually, right?
Yeah, it is.
And then it'll also give you the zoning.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll also give you, does it give you a lot layout where it shows you the lot and the dimensions and maybe a picture of the property?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that basic information right there is good to just get an idea of what you're working with. And so again, you can sound a little educated when you're talking to a seller, because a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll be like, you know what, I don't have access to the MLS. I just can't market yet, or I can't send out marketing because I don't have information of people's property info and all that kind of stuff. Well, don't let that stop you. Definitely look for your property data. Your city property data, that's getting a lot better as time goes on. It's like pretty amazing. They're usually under something called like a GIS, which is a geographical information system, I believe. And it'll spell it out and it'll show you what the lots are, mailing addresses, usually stuff like that. So it's really good to get that before you are going to go into a call with your seller, so you can pull that up when you're talking to them and you can sound educated. Another good thing to get is a Google Street View. Pull up a Google Street View on it. If you're using Podio, a lot of those systems set up will automatically pull it up. But if not, you can just go to Google Street View. And the cool thing with that is you can actually get a link shortener. It's called bit.ly, bit.ly. And what you can do is you can take that big, long Google Street View piece that comes out, highlight it, put it in bit.ly and shorten it down. And then that way, if you don't have like a CRM that has a street view in it, you can just pop that in there, and then every time you click on it, you'll have a street view, which is a really good way of making sure you can get to that street view without having to type it in every single time. So I know that's a little techie, but you can that's something that you can definitely do.
Yeah, it's nice to have that Google Street View, because not only can you see specifically that house, what it looks like, but you can kind of pan around the neighborhood, see if maybe it's a little overgrown or a little bit kind of run down compared to some of the other houses, or if it's close to, like, I know the other day we were on the phone with one of our students, and we were looking at one of those properties, and it was in kind of an industrial area. It was really weird. It was one of the only residential houses that was around in this industrial area. So it was potentially really hard to count, because he had numbers that, were going off of more of a residential type area. Whereas, if we didn't look at that through Google Street View, we would have probably not necessarily known what to really account for, because it was kind of a one-of-a-kind kind of property.
Yeah,
so it's always good to look at that.
To take a spin around the neighborhood, do a virtual little driving, right? And look around the neighborhood and look at the properties and see if one thing you want to watch out for too, right, is you want to make sure all the properties on the street are pretty much the same, right? That's usually a pretty much good idea to get an idea of the surroundings if it's a smaller house, bigger house, that kind of thing. It's not like it's across the street, across from an industrial area or a busy street. You want to make sure that the houses are all on the same side of one big intersection, not split across, things like that. Those are things to look for when you're using a street view. And the cool thing about Street View is it can give you instant credibility, right? So you can be on the phone and you can be like, oh, yeah, that's the house with the blue shutters, right? Oh, yeah. And then they think you really, actually gone out and looked at this property kind of thing. So that's another really good thing to use, or a good way to use Google Street View when you're going about talking to sellers. So we want to get these things kind of in a row before you call a seller back, right? So first thing you're going to do is you're going to get your property detail report. So you need to find like a government site or something along those lines that'll help you get that if you can't get access to MLS. The next thing is you want to get your Google Street View. And now the next thing you want to do is you want to get like some brief comparables, right? You can use Zillow for brief comparables. There's one site I actually almost forgot about. And I actually really like it. It's called iComps.com. Have you ever used iComps? I
have. Yeah, it's great. And here's the key whenever you're doing comparable type properties. The biggest thing, Zillow gets a lot of flack for the way that they do their Zestimate. But for us as investors, you don't necessarily want to go off of that Zestimate, but what you can use Zillow for is their sold properties. So their sold properties is great because for us, one of the things we really want to look for is, what actually sold, what it sold for. So you don't always necessarily want to use that Zestimate per se, but whenever you're kind of layering it down in Zillow, you could eliminate a lot of the different layers they have. So you can eliminate the stuff that's for sale by owner, rentals, and go to just what's sold. And whenever you have that view of those properties, you can take a look and see, all right, well, this one sold for 140, this one sold for 160, so on and so forth. And you can look specifically in those records, or even if you want to then take that information and pull it up in maybe your county records and stuff like that. But you can really get some good information just by looking at the sold properties, but not necessarily focusing on, that Zestimate or something like that, because in areas where maybe things vary too much, that Zestimate might be far off. So you can kind of do your own research there. It's all about finding that information, but it's a good thing to do.
Pull in, like we have townhouses around here. Mm-hmm. They might take single families and put them in townhouse comps and mash them together, and then that really throws off the Zestimate.
Right. Yeah, but if you're looking at sold properties, Zillow can be fairly accurate, or use that information and then compare it against your local tax records if you don't have access to MLS. But you can definitely find some really good information out there for free.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, guys, are you guys enjoying this information? If this is good info, you're able to use this or improve on it, let us know. Give us a thumbs up, give us a like, give us a hearts, all that good stuff. It gives us a good encouragement to keep sharing great information with you. We've got another thing that I'm going to talk about here that actually, when you're talking to a seller that you want to include, this is something that could really change the game for you. But before we do that, I wanted to tell you about some ways that we can help you, right? Okay, we work with students in a capacity that allows us to meet them where they're at to try to get them to where they want to go, right? So whether it's a small marketing budget, big marketing budget, whether they're trying to cold call, whether they're trying to get into this from a direct mail standpoint, whether they got big budget, or they're looking to do big marketing, we can help, okay? And the way we can do that is we have a implementation program. And what's cool about it is it's not focused on, okay, here's a course, go out and do it. It's based on implementing exactly what we teach. It's all laid out in a week by week format and basis. Do this, do this, do this. And then we hold you accountable along the way. So what's really cool about it is we get on the phone every week and on Thursdays, and we talk about what's going on in your business in a group format. So that way everybody can hear from everybody else on the call and hear their results. And it's kind of like a weekly mastermind almost, to where you hear what's going on in the other students and how they're doing things. And then you also get to hear the results, right? Last week we had some of our students on, and they were talking about how they got a $40,000 wholesale deal by mailing the exact list that we told them to mail, in a very extremely competitive market out in Utah, right? There's a lot of big heavy hitters out there. And these guys are brand new in the business, and they pulled out a $40,000 deal off of that.
A couple of them.
What's that?
A couple deals last week.
Yeah, a couple deals. So one from the mailing list that we told them to hit, and then cold calling. And it worked out really well for them. And we're always really excited to see people doing what we say and implementing it and making money on it. So that's what the implementation program is all about. So if you're interested in finding out more about that and want to do a strategy session with us, go ahead and Brian's going to drop the link and you can apply for that strategy session. So
yeah, I'll post a link in here, guys. And basically what it is, it's really simple. If you guys want to find out more about how we can help, when you go to that link, you'll learn a little bit about kind of what we do and how we can help you out. And you can schedule a call with me and Alex. Typically, I do a lot of the phone calls. We'll look at your business, see kind of where you're at, what your goals are, and we'll put together a plan with you that would be a good way for you to help you hit those goals. And if it sounds like something that you want us to help you implement, we could talk about the coaching options that we have. And it's real simple, but it's a lot of great information that we can put together with you even on the strategy call. So I'll post the link now, but it takes you to a page where you can find out a little bit more and then schedule a call with us.
Yeah, awesome. All right. So the next thing that you want to check out, and this could be a little bit advanced, but I'll tell you, this will separate you from the novices out there. If you pay attention to the area that's out there, try to see if there's a lot of development or new construction going on, okay? Because you could be looking at a house from just a normal standpoint of, oh, this is a house that needs to be fixed up, blah, 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 blah. But you could totally be missing out on a development opportunity. Could this lot be subdivided? Look for, bigger lots that could be split into, 50 by 100 or even 75 by 100, whatever the zoning is for that area. But if you are finding lots that have that, you could be like exponentially exploding your deals. You could turn a house, like for instance, I'll give you an example. We bought a house, a duplex, that actually had an extra lot attached to it because of the frontage, right? So we were able to subdivide that lot, and now we've got a duplex that we contracted on the house, I think for $160,000, I believe is what it was. And now we look at it, we've basically got a duplex for $80,000 and a lot for $80,000. So we actually ended up selling the duplex for $130,000, and now we could also sell that lot for $80,000. So we just taken a deal that a lot of people might have just looked past because they're like, oh, that duplex is a piece of junk, I can't pay $160,000 for it. But we got a free lot that came with it, right? Because we were abreast of what was going on with development and things like that. So you need to be on the lookout for development and a lot of different new construction type things going on in the neighborhood when you're looking at that, because that's just another factor that you need to consider. And I love houses that are ready for development, right? Because a lot of times now I don't need to play the whole game of, we need to take a look inside and all that kind of thing, right? We can simply just send people by it because it's basically a land deal at that point. And it's really flipping the land or new construction type stuff like that is really, really easy because people just need to go look. They don't even need to look at it really. They just go back to the city and they see if it can be subdivided, and you can make some really good deals off that. I mean, I remember a deal that I did. It was an absolute life changer for me. And I say this because I was in a spot where I was trying to play the rehab game, right? I was getting website leads and I was doing some wholesale type stuff, but then I said, you know what? I'm going to go for the rehab on this one. And I remember I bought the house for $50,000, and I had a contractor that came in and he tried to tell me, oh, it only costs $50,000 to fix it. And I'm like, oh, okay, that sounds good, right? So I bought it for 50, and he gave me a quote for 50. I'm in it for 100. I could sell it for 165, right? but he was just telling me what I wanted to hear. And I had another 30,000 that I needed to fix the house. And I was in a spot where I didn't want to go back to the lender, and I was starting to use my own money. And I remember watching my bank account just shrink and shrink and shrink and shrink and shrink. And I was getting nervous. I was getting scared. I was like, oh no, I'm gonna have to go get a job or something because this is getting really, really bad right now, right? But at the time, I was still marketing, and my virtual assistant was still making offers and all that kind of stuff at that time. And he came across a deal, and we offered $80,000 for it. And what I didn't know at the time, because my virtual assistant made the offer based on just the ARV of that house, it didn't include all the extra land that came along with it. But I got the lot or the house, the property, for $80,000, and I ended up selling it for $165,000, an $85,000 wholesale deal. And it came out, oh my, it came at the most opportune time. And it really was a life changer because I never had a deal that big. And I was also in a spot where I was in such a rough situation with that lot, or with that rehab, that was just literally eating me, eating my lunch every single day. But because we saw it from a new construction standpoint, it really changed the game on that. So be on the lookout for that when you're looking at property.
Don't leave money on the table if you can help it.
Leave money on the table, right? But when you're talking to the seller, or before you talk to a seller, these are the things you want to look out for, right? You want to find that property data information. You want to find maybe some brief comparables. Check out Zillow, iComps. iComps is a good one. You want to find that street view, and also be on the lookout for development. And you can really get a good idea of what you're looking at, sound credible when you're talking to a seller. Next week, we're going to talk about what to do when you're on a call, on the phone with the seller, what to ask, what to be on the lookout for, so you can maximize that as well. So does anybody have any questions about what I just said, or things that you want us to talk about as well? Remember, we're on these calls Tuesday and Thursday at 1 o'clock Eastern, and here to help you with just general questions or exactly what we just talked about. Somebody just said opportunity zones. Who said that?
Todd Miller.
Todd Miller, my buddy in Richmond. Good to see you, man. He's killing it up there in Richmond. Anybody else? In fact, I think Todd Miller knew about that time. I was him and I were working together at the time, and it was a rough time when that was happening, and that deal happened, and it was like, oh my gosh, what a breath of fresh air. So does anybody have any questions about just what we talked about? Or Brian, do you have any other comments with regards to that?
No, not really. But I think we covered it pretty good. Like you mentioned, the next one we're going to talk about how to, when you're on the phone with the seller, give you guys some good information, give you guys some good stories. Obviously our experience is definitely, something that you guys can use. So hopefully you don't make the same mistakes that we have.
Absolutely. And that's what the implementation program is all about, us giving you our experience, so then that way you don't make the same mistakes. I mean, I've made some big issues or big mistakes when it comes to development and things like that. And usually in development, you get hurt when you actually buy the property, not if you're wholesaling it. It's been said, I've walked on a few landmines, right? But I haven't blown any of my legs off yet. So we can use that experience about walking on landmines and having problems. But we can say, you need to avoid this, do this, don't avoid this list, definitely market to this list, and that whole kind of thing. And we do that with our students, and we'd be glad to do that with you guys if you're interested. So go check out that link. All right, guys. We're going to end it here. Good to see you guys. Remember, Tuesday, Thursday, 1 o'clock Eastern, and we'll see you later.
See you guys.